The more I have to think about, the more angrier I'm getting.
Why are you getting angry, though? I feel like...
Not angry, but just like I'm so... I don't want to use the word angry. I'm just looking for a different word to use, honey. Ready? Do you have everything? All the things?
Yeah.
All the things. That's a long list.
It is a long list. My problem is that it's a part 2 that doesn't... It 2/3 of the way through the episode, they resolve everything.
Did they though?
And you're like, I'm saying you resolved it.
I know. They resolved it.
Not like, the main thread is gone, and now you're stuck with this other third again. But you know what? Let's get it.
Let's just do it.
What's up, my know-it-alls? All right. Back by popular demand, as always, the Rose Tyler to my 10th Doctor. All right, right here is Mrs. Know-it-all. And we have thoughts and feelings. First, I want to come out and say that, listen, this is actually not a bad Doctor Who episode. It's just a stereotypical RTD part 2. Anybody who's familiar with Russell T Davies, you'll know that he's got 2 kinds of part 2s he does really. Either ones he hits out of the park, or ones that kind of fall flat on their face. This one kind of fell
Very
flat. So I'm not gonna go into all the details and nitty gritty of the episode. I think you guys have watched it. If you haven't watched it, spoilers for anything you haven't seen.
Spoilers.
Go watch the episode though. But at the same time, we're just gonna. I got some bullets here to cover. We'll talk through some stuff.
A lot of bullets.
I have a lot of bullets to cover.
And wait, how many times did you watch it? You can't say you watched it last night.
No, this is the third. I did too. I fell asleep. It's the third, but not because of the episode. I fell asleep because
I was exhausted. I was just kind of fuzzy.
I've seen it technically 3 times, 2.5 if you count. I watched the beginning part before I dozed off last night. And when I woke up, Mrs. Know-it-all wasn't happy. Not because I fell asleep, because of the episode. So we're going to get into this. So first thing, this is not the first time the Doctor has quote unquote lost. I feel like he lost at the end of time, the one with the Time Lords. I feel like he lost at the end of the one where the Daleks were going to kind of remake everything, destroy everything, with Donna. And so again, this is not a new thing for him to quote unquote lose. I think it's new for the way it happened. But I think that's about it, which isn't even new to us as a culture. Because I'm sorry, Thanos was right. Clearly, according to Sutekh. So, because literally,
Sutekh doesn't want anything.
Everybody turned to dust, and I thought that was an interesting way to go with it. So, the enemy clearly we're facing is Sutekh from the old show, Pyramids of Mars. They actually do reference that both literally and verbally. Literally because we get to actually see it on a screen as the TARDIS is we saw the memory TARDIS, the TARDIS of memories, which again we'll get into. So the first thing I have here is I thought it was really cool. I'm going to go. Some things I'm going to think are cool. Some things I'm going to think are talk through. Seeing everybody start to turn to sand, I could care less about the little orange Vespa scooter thing and Mel saving the Doctor. It doesn't matter to me. What I did care about was seeing Kate and everybody at UNIT turn to dust. Kate had a wonderful moment where she gets to stand and she shows her continued faith in the Doctor, which is give him hell. I trust that birds are going to chirp one day again, which I thought was weird considering not everything had died yet. So it was sort of I guess it's her trying to see into the future, so to speak.
They're just having hope.
Yeah,
that the Doctor is going to fix everything,
and being poetic at the end. It's whatever.
You thought that was rough?
What now?
You thought that was rough to see? I mean, I thought it was sad, but the other part was he's going to fix it because it was so soon in the episode.
Yeah, like right out the gate.
Yeah, so I'm just like, okay, so we know this isn't going to stick forever.
Yeah,
that's how I felt.
When everybody at UNIT suddenly opens fire, and so we're okay with 13-year-olds using
I am.
submachine guns and
Yes,
weapons?
because if he can be a part of unit, he knows how to use a machine gun.
No, totally. But it's on his scooter.
Yes, which I thought was really cool.
And what's cool is even better. Totally. You see him on the thing like this.
Yes, I think that's completely okay. I allow it.
First off, we're Americans. You damn right. But at the same time, I was like, oh, okay. Wow. All right. Good on you. I mean, all the reasons you said are in-universe, in-story reasons that I'm like, okay, right on.
Yeah.
But the audience member in me is like, oh my, okay. You know, I mean, how many kids are today running around their scooters going, you know what I mean?
Your Segway.
No, totally, yeah, all the segways, whatever. It was great. All right, so back to the scooter Segway thing. If the doctor's telling her, he yells at her at one point. Mel was talking about. He yells at her. He's like, "Go faster!" She's like,
when they're in that little Vespa.
Yeah, he's like, "Go faster!" She's like, "It's going as fast as it can," and he shouts, "Go faster!" again. I'm like, "This isn't our first rodeo, sir. Sonic the thing. Somehow the Sonic screwdriver makes everything go faster, happen quicker, be stronger. Like whatever, man. Just be like, boom, the thing's going like turbo speed. You know what I'm saying? Be like, let's go. All right, that's what I'm talking about. Sorry, it's laser screwdriver. Who got Sonic? Anyway, I was like, call back to the master. You know what I'm talking about. Then we get this moment where Mrs. Flood is with Cherry, and she's already been Creeper when we've already had speculation about who she is, which, by the way, I'm going to tell you up front, that particular thread does not get pulled this episode. So as everything's turning to sand, Cherry's like, who are you? And she's like, and Mrs. Flood has a very interesting line. She says, oh, you sweet small thing, insignificant thing, or something, you small person or something.
I'm sorry, you tiny little woman. I'm so sorry.
I'm still very much of the mind that Mrs. Flood's going to turn out to be the Ronnie or to be another time lady of some kind. Mm-hmm. She's clearly someone of higher order of magnitude. I don't think she's a god, the way the show's labeling gods, small g. Like that's a lot of people have said that. Which one is she? Which one of the Pantheon is she? I don't think she's anybody from the Pantheon. I think she's a time lady because everything to me is leading to someone who's, and if you remember the Ronnie, those of you who are old school Doctor Who fans, the Ronnie always thought humans were small, always thought less than. She very much believed in Time Lord superiority in a big bad way that the Doctor did not subscribe to. And I feel like, and plus Russell T Davies likes his anagrammic names. And for me, Rain is an anagram for flood or for Ronnie. Thus, and you know, Rain, Ronnie, flood. Right, Rain brings the flood.
I appreciated you explaining that to me because again, that would over my head.
No, I hear you. Sutekh has the TARDIS, but the TARDIS feels it's the TARDIS of memories. Now, those of you who've been following along online, there have been these things called the Telltale TARDIS, which is where they got the doctors that are still alive with some of their old companions, and it's as if they have found a room in the TARDIS that is a secret little room where their memories live and they what are remembered, and they've been giving these good little vignettes. There was even one with Ncuti Gatwa's doctor and Ruby. Mm-hmm. And so talking literally about this, now you learn that probably fits in the whole of this thing. So apparently the TARDIS of memories, or the memory TARDIS, is a thing. Now, I had a feeling they were going to do something like this when the doctor said last episode, he was like, oh, the image of a TARDIS is a TARDIS. It's very similar verbiage to when they talked about the weeping angels. The image of an angel is an angel. Mm. Okay, so somehow if this time window can produce the image of a TARDIS, then it could very well be a TARDIS. And I was like, okay. I had a feeling last episode, I was like, oh, this is how they're going to end up getting out of this somehow. Okay. And sure enough, he rushes down to the window room. Big up, sorry to the agent he sends down to Bunker 17. I hope we find out what Bunker 17 is later, because I'm assuming it's some place where that is impregnable from anything. And we'll see whatever that, hopefully that's down the road, because that was just sort of thrown out. But then they all get there and they get into, they climb, the three of them get in, and then he's got this, it looked like a jump rope, which I'm assuming, which he said was
a bungee cord.
Something, yeah.
Because they had the hooks.
Right. It was a bungee cord, and he gave it some supernatural memory thread that was something, whatever.
Memory cord.
Yeah.
Or was all held together by memories, this cord.
Yeah.
And it all together.
Yeah. I feel
truth.
I feel like they played fast and loose with a lot of the rules.
Yes.
This is my problem with. I'm glad that they decided to go something different. I'm glad they decided to have fun. And Russell was like, this season is going to be about magic. It's going to be about fantasy. And I'm like, great. I'm so happy. The problem with fantasy is you get to make the rules up as you go. And the problem with storytelling in a science fiction based thing that has done such a wonderful job of explaining the unexplainable and being crazy and this and that, it felt like you were cheating, and the cheating was obvious. Like you were showing your work while you were cheating. Mm-hmm. You were showing you were cheating. You weren't even trying to hide it.
Right.
And the rules didn't seem to matter, did they?
No.
I stopped and thought about what was with the snow, and I realized, because everyone's online been asking, what was with the snow? What's the snow? Why is the snow so important? Why is the snow so important? I briefly hit on this last episode. The snow isn't what's important.
Right. I remember we were saying that, yeah.
The tracks the Doctor has left between his original visit there on the TARDIS, between Sutekh's visit there with the TARDIS, between now the memory TARDIS, there were so many tracks left that essentially the snow is just being pulled in due to Ruby's memory of the whole situation and the whole thing. It's a moment that has holes, mm-hmm. and she pulls that through time. I don't think it's anything special. You find out it's not anything special, and we've been literally run through a train of stuff that didn't matter. And I'm trying to go through, get as much as I can out so that we can get to there, because there's a lot of things that I have to criticize about that. But for right now, I feel like that's the only answer you get. So anybody online who is not happy with that answer, I'm sorry. That's the answer you're getting.
Yeah.
And there's nothing much you can do about that. So
yeah. He knows because he fell asleep, which is okay. I didn't get to do a whole lot of talking, so my perspective of this, I'm so let down by this episode. Mm-hmm. So, because I didn't have you to bounce off of.
Sure.
So you're saying everything that you just, you're like nailing everything that like questions I had, like, so I don't understand the whole snow thing, and so keep going. You're doing wonderful, honey.
No, where's it? At one point, the Doctor introduces to Ruby. He's like, "This is Sutekh. He's this and that, whatever." Gives titles, because in this show they have to give titles that mean nothing.
Sutekh, the death of ages, the Typhonian beast, the greatest monster I have ever fought.
Really? You faced the Emperor of the Daleks. You faced the Cyber Leader. You faced the equivalent of Satan himself, which I know is somehow supposed to end up being this same creature. And I'm like, this is the greatest villain you've ever faced? I would beg to differ. I can think of about a half dozen other villains that are worse. I think the Master,
the bad guys.
Right. I'm like, it's weird. So I don't know.
It wasn't believable that this was. He did not come across of making me believe that this was the scariest, worst thing he's ever fought.
So up to that point, I was willing to go, okay, this is the scariest thing they're presenting to us that he is. Mm-hmm. Fine. I'm willing to go there with you. And then the ending really lets us down. And I'm sitting here going, well, maybe did the pooch fall asleep? Like what? Like, literally, I got the know-it-all pup over here sleeping next to me in the chair. And I'm like, he's more dangerous than Sutekh ended up being. So whatever. It's real. No, it's real. It's true. And then we get the revelation that Sutekh was apparently riding the TARDIS the whole time. Since that episode with the Fourth Doctor, he's been riding the whole time. I ask that because was he on there when the TARDIS was destroyed by the Daleks being thrown into a fire? Did he burn? Was he there when all the dimensions were being bled away and the 11th Doctor or the 12th Doctor rather was shrunk and the TARDIS was this big? Was a little baby Sutekh going like, "You can't defeat me, I'm Sutekh"? Like, was it this little? You know what I'm saying? I mean, I'm just thinking through episodes.
No, and
that are goofy. Yeah. And I'm like, was he there for those? How about in the Day of the Doctor? Was when all the 13 are sitting here, where TARDIS is flying by each other? They're like, "Sup, yo." I mean, like, what?
Didn't they?
None of the other Sutekhs.
Anything?
Not that's not when none of the other Sutekhs were like high-fiving. Like, what's going on, man? It's real. Again, so you say something like this, and that's fine. And by the way, I'm not a hardcore, like, it's canon. I'm not that guy. But at least try to make it make some kind of sense. The Doctor Who, yes, has been ridiculous, but it's always been ridiculous in how earnest it was. Even though we had papier-mâché monsters, every actor on set took them deadly seriously. The Sontarans that looked horrible, the original Cybermen that literally looked like people in tinfoil suits, but everybody who looked a certain way, they got the respect they deserved, okay? You know what I'm saying? And I felt like this was all goofy for goofy's sake.
Right.
None of it,
Right.
how did you take it? It was hard to take it seriously and earnestly. There are people online who are stupid who are like, the original Jackal mask was so much scarier. That's a lie. Stop it. The CGI was fine. What's funny is I don't have an issue. I see the money.
Oh, yeah.
I see the money clearly. Disney money was being well
Disney
spent.
money was spent well.
Okay, you see the TARDIS flying, you see sets galore, you see all kinds of stuff. Like they did not mince on any of the sets, any of the set stuff. So I'm down for that.
I need to ask about the bungee cord.
Go for it.
We're not there yet in the episode, but the bungee cord, is it because it was like a memory cord that she could latch it onto him like a dog and just latch it onto the TARDIS and just fly through the time vortex? I felt that was ridiculous.
Yes. I too felt like it was ridiculous.
Okay. I mean, I see why they had to do it. Don't get me wrong.
But somebody online was like, "Can we just talk about how awesome it is? The Doctor stuck him on the chain and flew through blah 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 with him." And I'm like, and I said, I would, if they had actually used a chain. Then I could be like, "Oh look, he's taking the dog for a walk." I mean, I would get
Yes.
This was a bungee cord with a die-cast metal hook like you use to lash your luggage to the roof of your car. Now, I guess Time Lords have bungee cord that's bigger on the inside. Like, I don't know. Because apparently the thing just stretched super long and was...
And then that's fair. I'll even accept that. I just feel if it wants to stretch across time, great, stretch across time. It felt so wrong, or not. It didn't feel right that I'm going to go like this to a godlike creature on his little dog tags, and I just sound so funny. You know, man. I know.
Sutekh, little bone collar.
But then we just lost it, and I guess because I feel like it's the TARDIS.
There wasn't even a D-link on it. It was literally it was a little bungee cord like you lash your luggage up to the roof. It was a little.
And I'm trying not to be too stupid critical over it, but I just it pulled me out of what was going on, even though I didn't really care for what was going on anyway. But it's like it pulled me out even more.
I know, and I think is after the week we had with Star Wars and other things, I find my level of nitpick wanting to relax because I'm just sitting here going. Part of the thing is that it's a show that's always been built on giving you a solid foundation on what it was. And this episode didn't feel like that. That's my problem. My problem isn't the nitpicky stuff, because we can sit here and nitpick every single thing.
Yeah.
And there's tons
I don't want to
to
do that
nitpick.
either, because there were things that were like other things that were more important than just nitpicking the bungee cord. But it was like that was the dumbest thing.
Well, I'm going to say like for instance, the acting is great. The acting is great. The storytelling overall, I enjoyed the way that the pacing was there. My issue at the moment was that this did not feel like it was the part 2 of last week's episode.
I feel like this is a bridge episode, and I'm waiting for part 2 next week.
Like part 2 was,
you know what I mean? Like I feel like there should be more.
Yeah, part 2 should have been. I thought should have been for everything. Part 1 was. Part 2 did not pay off in its energy and its resolution. The resolution happened too fast. Everything was, and by too fast I mean, why did we go through anything we went through? Now the argument can be made that this may be a leftover from the rest of the season, because I have several things that need to be ultimately laid out. So let me keep going before we get too far off track, because I feel like we're losing ourselves in some of this stuff. The Doctor tells off Sutekh, I swear about my 2 hearts in my chest, blah 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 blah, and I'm like, where were these big balls when all this was going down? Mm-hmm. Last episode, you were Mr. Terrified in front of the old lady who's got her hand out at you like this, with the red eyes. But all of a sudden, in front of the CGI monster dog, in front of the actual villain himself, you're like, I'm going to defeat you and blah, blah, blah. Okay. I did like when he suddenly goes,
Pretty shock me.
why am I not dead? That felt very Doctor Who. Like, that very the Doctor.
I will defeat you, and I will turn back death. And why? Am I still alive?
And he starts trying to figure that out. Anytime the Doctor tries to math something out in his own head, figuring it out, that I like. Because I feel like that does feel like the Doctor. Apparently now they've expanded lore yet again, which they do. Russell's always done that. They now, apparently the TARDIS's perception filter extends out 66.7 meters or 73 yards. Yeah, I know. Well, and then you had that moment where she touches the screen and it shows Dude, who was the worst prime minister, and the leap we're making is that the reason that they're still alive is because Sutekh wants to know who Ruby's mother is, because he doesn't know, and that the only way we can find out is that, oh, look, 2049, that's where Dude happened. Do you remember how you remember that? No? What the heck? And then it's like, but then we go, and it's because he created the genetic database of people in the thing, and it just felt like in comedy, there is such a thing as going way too far for the joke. This wasn't a joke, but we went way too far to connect that dot. That I already thought 73 Yards was arguably the worst episode of the season, not in terms of her performance and acting, but in terms of the story and how it all comes together. And then for them to try to reconnect it the way they did felt horsey, very awkward, very, very wedged in a way that didn't need to be like that.
It didn't make much sense.
It didn't. It really didn't. And somehow that connection was off. Having Mel be the link to the thing, I felt like was one more thing that didn't need to happen. There was too much that wasn't there. There were too many things that kept popping up and nothing was getting resolved.
That wasn't necessary.
Correct.
That wasn't necessary.
Yeah.
And if it popped up, it wasn't even, it was because it wasn't necessary.
I feel like the Doctor screaming into the void of space was, while the correct feeling, I don't care anymore. We've seen this Doctor cry about literally everything.
There's no effect anymore of seeing the Doctor visibly crying. And people can argue, well, that's because he's, rehabilitated and all that healing, all that stuff that we talked about. But it loses this effect.
When David Tennant would get emotional like that, it mattered. When Matt Smith would get emotional like that, it mattered. Heck, when Peter Capaldi would get angry, it mattered.
Yeah.
Like, those things mattered. This Doctor has cried for everything, and everyone gets the one tear down the thing. That's why I said he should play in Sliders. He should play Crying Man if they ever bring Sliders back, because he could just drop of a hat and he could be crying, And I just didn't. I'm not sold. And I rewatched it, and now on 3 rewatches, I'm watching that moment going, why don't I care? Why doesn't this feel like it's affecting me the way it should, the way it has in the past? And it just was empty. It was empty for me.
Don't get me wrong, I cried everything, but this is a bit and there are people that do, but you're right. It feels very empty. It doesn't stand. Like when he cried after Dot and Bubble.
That
I felt that like he's gonna watch. He knows these people are going to die.
Right.
So it's just
I felt like the desert planet scene. What? I've seen people online praising that scene as being like, that's Russell writing good character beats. Yes.
Then was it the editing?
But where did... No. But
that's what I'm saying.
It would be a beautiful scene if it mattered. It didn't matter anywhere. I tried to point out to Mrs. Know-It-All that, it mattered because he needed the spoon and the whole thing. And she's like, when did he need the spoon? And afterwards, you see the one moment where he says, here's something real to help charge, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, but I didn't know that beforehand.
No, we're very used to seeing the Doctor, like you said, do math in your head, pull things together. But if I had this, if we could do this, and you can either see it or you hear it or they're showing you. It went from screaming to on a planet.
Yeah.
Nothing in between. And it took me back. I'm like, are we going through a memory almost? Or I almost thought that. none of it really like clicked until farther into the scene. And then when he came back, I'm like, a spoon. Like there was no talk of a specific metal. There was no talk of nothing. It was just screaming into the void. And
I'm convinced this scene only exists. By the way, it's not a character beat. You can call it a character beat, but we learn nothing new about the Doctor, his empathy, or what he cares about that we haven't learned everywhere else already. There's nothing of value in this scene. The scene is just there, one, to give us the trauma of a baby that's already dead, to give us the trauma of a woman who turns to dust in front of his eyes, and then at the very, very end, when everything's restored, to show them in an Oasis Utopia place again because everything's fixed. That's the only reason that scene exists. And to me, that's a waste of a scene. Why did you, it felt self-congratulatory in what it was trying to be. It was not, I didn't appreciate it in the least. I thought it was extra. It was extra for the sake of being extra. And I'm like, okay.
No, I agree. Yeah, I agree.
Oh yeah, there's a quick line briefly. There's some people are pointing out. I think you guys are pointing it out the wrong way. There are people who are trying to be like, there's Doctor Who being woke again. And it's the scene where they're talking about, they look at, she's like, what's all this stuff? She says, who's the man with the hair? This and that. What's all the Egyptian stuff? And he says, cultural appropriation. He was not talking about British people appropriating with Egyptian things. He was talking about the Egyptians who stole their look from the Osirans. That's what he meant by cultural appropriation. At the very least, until I hear differently from Russell T Davies, that's how I took it. That makes the most sense. I did not see, and I'm looking for stuff that feels off. I did not hiccup on that. I didn't think it was a racial thing. I literally was like, oh, they're talking about how the Egyptians stole the Osirans, which is what Sutekh's original race was before he evolved into being godhood. He still stole their look. That's cultural appropriation. That's what he meant. Then we get to Ruby's origin. So, by the way, that's the end of everything. You get the dog. It really is everything. You get the dog thing. He rips him through time. Doctor's apparently the Doctor is the bringer of life and death.
I was hoping that's why I didn't stop you. It's like, so you're the bringer of life,
but now you're gonna also
be a monster and bring death.
Which is death to the monster.
To the life.
Yeah. It just, the whole, and now everyone's like, maybe when the Doctor did that, Gallifrey came back to life. And I'm like, I think he wasn't bringing everyone back to life. He was just he was canceling out what Sutekh had done. He was undusting, which, by the way, don't even get me into the implications of the dusting versus not dusting. Because again, as we learned from Endgame, and which is when that dust hits whoever, that means airplane pilots would have died. So what happens when everything's reversed? Were they magically not killed? Because if you remember, Kate says later, oh, I still have memories.
Echoes. Yeah.
There should have been chaos, because anybody would have come back where they were, or would have come back dead, or not. Like it didn't make like bodies because the airplane crashed. Because they didn't come back at the same moment. Time, like they didn't reset time.
Right.
Okay. They showed up.
They didn't reset time.
And they it wasn't the same kind of, so again, I feel like
I guess I can look past that because I did for Endgame.
The entire ending. What are you talking about? But they didn't in Endgame. They just talked about all the chaos and peace that ensued. At least they addressed it.
Me, but they addressed it later on, but I was saying at the end of Endgame.
No, for sure. So my whole thing is, I feel like the entire back half, part 2 was, it's good. It's cool stuff. It's part 2, hand wavy all day. And I had a problem with that because I'm like, how are you going to set all this up?
Wonderful stuff up. It was great. We were excited.
The resolution to everything felt really stupid simple in a way that undermined part 1. And I have now watched part 1 and 2 together. I watched part 1 before I watched part 2 this morning, and it felt jarring how not a part of the main story part 2 felt. Then there's the whole Mrs. Flood thing. She comes back, and when she comes back, she calls him a clever boy, which is hints of Clara, but it's not. But she's wearing Clara's outfit. But then later on, at the very, very end, the very tag of the whole thing, Mrs. Flood is on the roof. She addresses the audience, which I'm still not quite sure why. and she makes a jarring statement about the Doctor having a terrible end or whatever else. But she's wearing an outfit that was worn by the Rani. And if you know anything about Doctor Who history, that's I want to kind of go back and look at some of the other outfits she's worn. I know she wore the one vest when we first met her, which looked very similar to Rory's vest he used to wear. So I don't know if that's it. And of course, the outfit that's identical to Clara's that she's wearing in part 1, and then this thing at the end. So I don't know. It's I'm just it's a very unsatisfying ending. And then the end, the coup de grace end, where we spend 20 minutes with this nonsense with Ruby and her mom that I honestly couldn't care less about, because you sold me a bag of goods that weren't any good. Why did the Maestro fear Ruby and what she was?
Yep.
The Maestro's reaction to Ruby is in direct conflict. I don't care. The Doctor's like, things are important because we give them importance. What?
Then why are
cheap, contrived nonsense is that? No, it just felt so cheap. And the thing is, I can't even be mad. This isn't even a this season thing. Russell, again, has two kinds of endings he does well in part 2s. Ones where he hits it out of the park, and ones that feel like, eh. This one felt like, eh. And it wasn't good. I didn't like it. It wasn't good.
Yeah, I found myself as it was going on to know, once we found out who Ruby's mother was, it was like, that's awesome. But the importance of Ruby's mother there isn't any.
No.
And
then you get into some other little other housekeeping. The Doctor trying to talk Ruby out of, because now that I'm here, now you're forced me into this moment, I'm going to critique it. It's like they say on the cooking shows, don't put two things on the plate if you don't want me to judge both.
True.
Okay? So I didn't want this button, but you gave it to me. So now you're going to hear me about it. The Doctor trying to talk her out of seeing her mother, I felt odd. I see why they did it. As a writer, I get the parallels. He didn't go back for his granddaughter. She and Ruby's mother had 7,000 plus days and never came back for her daughter. She should leave it alone. So he's trying to justify mom's behavior and thus get Ruby to not do what she's supposed to do.
Yeah.
Which I feel like is just an excuse for him to justify his behavior.
that's exactly what that was.
And later on, he says to her, he's like, hey, maybe I will, blah, blah. If you guys called on or invoked Susan and don't give us Susan,
In any form.
by the way, I don't want Susan, but now she's Chekhov's Susan. Okay, she's Chekhov's gun. You've made this such a major part of the story that if you don't do it, I find myself sitting here going, why did you waste the script time? Why did you waste the screen time? I know why you did it. It's supposed to be, Doctor, I went I knew the ins and outs of the TARDIS and I found someone you cared about to set a trap. We already did that. It was the Pandorica. Moving on. Stop stealing your buddy's stories, man. It just felt weird. It felt like weak sauce. And the reason we're so frustrated is because you did an amazing build-up. You built it up great. Why squander that? Now, by the way, I want to go on record to say, if you enjoyed this ending, dude, awesome. I'm so happy.
Yeah.
That's great. No, I don't enjoy every ending. By the way, I'm not writing off the show. I love Doctor Who
I do
as an
look forward
institution.
Christmas special. I do.
forward to Christmas special.
I really do.
Moffat's doing it. I actually liked Moffat's Christmas specials. I'm a Christmas special fan. Like, I loved it last year. They stopped being New Year's specials and made them Christmas specials again. I'm down. Last Christmas is one of my favorites that's ever been written and put to screen. It's brilliant with the Doctor and the whole Santa Claus and the whole every Christmas is last Christmas. I'm like, right on, man. So anyway, there you go. Now you know. Don't always have to battle your halfway to being know it all yourself. What's all index for this episode? What did you think?
I gave it a 7.
Okay, that's fair. It's funny. I was gonna do slightly different, but I think I'm probably gonna sit with you on a 7 as well. All right, guys, comment below. Let us know what you thought of the episode. Did they do good? Did they do bad? Was it lackluster for you like it was for me? If you loved it, do me a favor.
Let us know.
Tell me what you loved. I'm not saying that this is not me goading a fight. I genuinely love hearing that people loved things. I'm a channel that likes things and likes to talk about things that I enjoy. I hate talking about things that I don't like, but at the same time, I haven't made a commitment to you guys to review these things. So sometimes they hit, sometimes they don't, and that's where we are right now. Yeah. So, but overall, I find myself now overall liking the show this season more than I started liking it.
Yes, I'm going to agree with you on that because I did watch a couple episodes and I did miss some. Because for whatever reason.
Sure.
And I would say to you, so tell me about this episode, and I'm like, you know what? I did just fine not watching a couple episodes didn't affect. I might get yelled at for this. Didn't affect if I liked part 1 and part 2 together.
No, and for me, well, it's funny. For me, it's actually both the same and the opposite. Why do I say that? This season suffered from one thing, and one thing only. It did not give us enough to latch on to. So they stop writing seasons that are supposed to make us feel like everyone is bonded and everyone's together. We've had all this experience when it didn't feel that way. The other thing is stop playing musical chairs with the episodes. Devil's Cord has a completely different vibe and energy because it came from the back end. Devil's Cord originally was supposed to have been before or after Dot and Bubble. Rogue should have been earlier. Like those several episodes have been moved around, and you can tell the difference in the energy. You can tell the difference when people are talking. It threw us off as people watching this. I'm like, what's going on? And so I don't want to be there. I like enjoying the show, but I like write your episodes in a linear fashion so that we at least get.
We'll never get more, will we?
What?
More episodes. We needed more episodes.
I agree. I don't think we're going to. I think we're at 8 episodes. I think this is it. And so yeah. Anyway, all right, guys. Hey, again, appreciate each and every one of you. That's the playlist for the season. In case you missed it, that's going to be the episode from last week. And of course, please always subscribe to the channel. All right, guys. We'll talk to you again very soon. Never forget.
Everyone loves a know-it-all.
Bye-bye.
Bye.